The things that you think of in your mind that turn you on.
Is a given scenario or action that you come up with in your head that is particularly arousing to you.
It might be something that you keep completely private, or it might be something that you're just not participating in at the moment, or you want to participate in the future.
Whatever is in your head that you think about, that you like, that you want to do, or whatever, you know?
Sexual fantasy would be a sexy fantasy in your brain.
Okay, butt sex for guys.
Doing little girls.
A lot of people think the threesome thing, especially guys, think the two girls would be hot.
Well, for the guys, the girl-on-girl action.
That a lot of people have, like, personas they fantasize about, that they want to be.
For women, some people say it's rape, but I'm not sure that's legitimate. I think fantasies are often about taking control.
There's definitely something to be said for the dominant fantasies that a lot of people have.
Dominance is probably a big fantasy.
Not necessarily rape, but like controlled rape. Where
From what I've heard, what I've read, it seems to be giving up control. It seems to be most prevalent. This often manifests itself in being called a rape fantasy. But I think the giving up the control willfully eventually is the biggest part of it.
Yes, like the really old people and like the young ones. Like I'm talking about like a 19-year-old with like a 60-year-old.
I definitely think that the like snuff film fantasies are unacceptable. I think that if you have to go so far as to pretend or even kill someone or rape or something like that, to that extreme is unacceptable.
Things like pedophilia, necrophilia, rhinophilia, laurinophilia, stuff like that.
Pedophilia is bad.
There's nothing that I feel is necessarily unacceptable as a fantasy, but there's definitely this huge fascination with really young girls. Like, they're like barely legal 18 college schoolgirls. Yeah, that's a little bit creepy at some point. At some point, you're 35 and whacking it to somebody who they're claiming is barely 18 and they look like they're like 12, it's a little bit disturbing. That's called pedophilia.
No unacceptable fantasies. There are definitely things that should not be carried out, but as long as it's going on in your mind, just do whatever.
As long as it remains a fantasy, it doesn't matter.
destructive actions that are destructive to like other people's well-being, I think that's when it becomes a problem. But like if it's just a fantasy in your head, I don't care what it is that you like to think about, that's it belongs to you and it's fine. You can think about whatever you want.
I don't fantasize.
Lies.
Sex. Sexy time. Doing guys. We're doing girls.
If I'm just like alone masturbating, just regular sex, couples, oral, etc.
Lesbians? Doing girls?
I do fantasize about like the power play stuff.
Mind control. That's my particular taking and giving up of control. Either me doing it or someone else doing it to me, like hypnotism and shit like that.
I fantasize about girls. That's that's my fantasies, because I've had sex every way with a guy doing everything.
I don't really have any specific fantasy, like there's not like a scenario or anything that I set up. It's just kind of like, I like sex. Right now I would like it and I'm going to think about it because I'm bored and in class. Where I fantasize most often, actually. It's kind of like a somebody coming and like knocking on the window fantasy, like, hey, I showed up out of nowhere, let's do it. That's a good one. That's a really fun one.
I fantasize more about like what I want done to me instead of like what I want to do.
To some degree, some sort of dominant submissive, but not the rape shit, not the like tear me a new opening rape shit, just like take control.
No.
I don't think Halle Berry would sleep with me in a Catwoman outfit, so there's really no fantasy I can act out.
I do have this secret fantasy. Okay, Richard Dawkins is the sexiest man on earth, and P.C. Myers comes in barely second. And if I could tag team Richard Dawkins and P.Z. Myers, I would totally do it.
No, I feel like I already did that, and like maybe I don't remember what they were like. But I mean, sometimes I'll think of something that I want, you know, like randomly. I'll be like, "Ooh, I really want to have sex like that right now." Like
I fantasize about like just kind of meeting up with a girl in a bathroom. That's so weird.
I think it would be really fun to act out a fantasy, but I don't really have one, so I need to find someone who has one and then like buy a costume or something, like props, set up the whole thing like a play, only sexy. No, actually, I don't.
I don't think so. No.
Yes.
Once.
Fantasy.
yeah, I believe so. I just don't like. I think we had like a big fantasy talk a few years ago.
Sure. I mean, I've been in a 3-year relationship and a 1 and a couple of month years relationship. So obviously, especially with the 3 years, things kind of got a little stale after a while.
Nothing specific. No.
Yes.
Not like a ridiculous fantasy. No.
Kind of. Is there a gray area in this? I think there is a gray area.
Sure.
Because we were just like, you know what's funny? Tying people up and fucking them. Let's do that.
I've done a lot of stuff that other people would consider fantasy, so I guess I'd consider that acting it out.
Often, and usually it's not like a big deal. It usually is just like, I've been thinking about having sex this particular way a lot, that's turning me on a lot lately, and then we'll do that for a while or whatever.
Once. It was amazing. It was very, very good. No, never actually.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I have. They told me, and I was like, okay.
I dated a guy for about 3 years. It was fucking nuts. And he told me about a lot of fantasies.
I feel like with my partner, I'm more trying to get it out of him. I feel like I'm the one who makes the suggestions more often, and when I ask him, he's like, I don't want to talk about it.
I did have a boyfriend who really liked, like, giant boobs. Like, not like, okay, you're a big girl and you have big boobs, but like tiny frame with like giant, like retarded giant.
Yes, but not all of them.
Nope, but I'm dying to.
Be with them.
I've tried to get, like, if he tells me, I might do it, but he doesn't talk about it as much as I do, so whatever.
Yes. Yes.
A lot of guys have fantasies about anal sex, and I don't really like to act that fantasy out. So I have before, but yeah, that's not something I would like to do again.
One time I tried to with a guy, and we were bad actors, and we just laughed and did it with them. Yeah, I mean, why not? It's not like it wasn't too terrible. Like, I'm pretty sure if it was like really weird, I don't know. I'd try anything once, maybe. I can't really think maybe if it involved like another person, I'd be more apprehensive, but I'd be willing to at least consider each and every fantasy brought to my attention.
Definitely more difficult to talk about.
Because it's like your innermost secrets that you never talk about with anybody, kind of.
Fantasies really touch an inner core, something that is secret and
That is also kind of embarrassing for whatever reason. Earlier when I was talking about the fantasy that the guy had that I dated, like, I stopped myself from saying it was really weird after. And I think that kind of mentality makes us not want to talk about our fantasies because somebody's going to talk about it later.
People always worry about how people perceive them. And so when they're sitting here and being completely open with another person, it gives them a lot more vulnerability.
You know, some people think about some things that most people would consider to be weird, and like whatever, that's their personal, you know, that's what they like and they're allowed to like it. And I think sometimes because of like social stigmas, it makes it difficult to talk about certain things just because.
I think once you get the fantasy train rolling, it's easier to talk about